Nasya oil is a wonderful treatment of the nose where you're putting oil in the nose. Nasya means nose, so Nasya oil is oil that you put in the nose. And Nasya oil is a great way to refresh your mind, stimulate your whole body, and clean your respiratory tract. And you see a picture of a person using an eyedropper to get the oil into the nostrils. And notice that she's tilting her head back to get that oil in. So how do you do it? You put your head back. You put 3 drops in each nostril. And it's easy to put your head back on the edge of the bed. You can do it in a chair, but it's harder. Once you're done putting 3 drops in each nostrils, you squeeze the nostrils slightly and sniff to snort the Nasya oil up into the nasal passages. Now, this Nasya oil is not just sesame oil, but it also contains a bunch of essential oils and other things that are really refreshing and healthy for the nose. There's a picture of a bottle of Nasya oil, and it's recommended that you do Nasya first thing in the morning, or that you do it in the evening just before bed if it's not too stimulating for you. If you're the type of person that has trouble sleeping, don't do Nasya before you go to bed because it'll keep you up because it's a stimulating, refreshing treatment. It's helpful to keep lay your head downward afterwards to improve absorption so it doesn't just drip out your nose or down the back of your throat. You want to let the oil soak in. Generally, Nasya oil contains clearing aromatic compounds to open up, clear out, and flush out the channels of the heads. It's vasodilating, getting blood flow going. It's stimulating to the brain. And by the way, there are many different Nasya formulas with different qualities. Purifying formulas, stimulating formulas, pacifying, relaxing formulas, and nourishing formulas. The nose is the gateway to the respiratory tract. And so using Nasya oil is you're basically cleaning the beginning of your respiratory tract. It's cleansing to the whole pranavasrotas, which is Ayurveda's word for the respiratory tract. It invigorates prana. Prana is also the word for energy. So there's a kind of duality there. The energy and the respiratory tract is kind of seen to have some similarities. So in this second benefit here that I'm talking about, invigorating prana, I'm referring to the energy aspect. It opens up the breath. It clears the sinuses. It moistens dry nasal passages. So Nasya does lots of good things. It really has a direct and powerful effect on the mind, which is invigorating. And it's even used for some nervous system disorders, from seizures to Bell's palsy and speech disorders and paralysis, etc. Nasal passages are highly vascularized, which means there's a lot of blood flow through them, and Nasya stimulates and clears, stimulates that blood flow and clears out the mucus from the passages. And in general, those essential oils get into the circulatory system. So Nasya can even permeate the whole body as it gets absorbed into the blood. Nasya is actually the final cleansing procedure in Panchakarma treatments. Panchakarma are the more deeper cleansing practices of Ayurveda, and Nasya is the 5th and final one. It removes any residual doshas left over from the previous cleansing practices. Nasya can help if you have a hoarse voice or sore throat, a dry mouth. It can help even with problems in the throat, like goiters and other throat obstructions and inflammations in the throat. It can help with ear disorders. Remember, your eustachian tube connects the inner ear space to the nasal passages. So you can't get into that space by putting oil or other medicines in the ears. You have to go through the nasal passages, and Nasya does that. So Nasya is a way to treat ear issues. And it really opens up circulation, as I mentioned, which helps with ear problems that are related to circulatory issues. It can help with muscle stiffness in the head and neck and jaw. It can, really help with any diseases of the head, and because it has such a powerful effect on the mind, mental issues also. And it's considered classically to benefit everything above the collarbone. It's a treatment for anything and everything above the collarbone. When shouldn't you do Nasya? Well, don't do Nasya if your stomach is full or unsettled, because the Nasya can drip down the back of the throat into your stomach, which can further irritate your stomach. Nasya brings your attention up into the head, so don't have Nasya right after a meal, because you want your energy and focus to be in the gut then, not up in the head. So you don't do Nasya when you have indigestion or right after eating or after drinking too much water. Don't do it when you have excessive thirst or hunger, because those essential oils will stimulate an even bigger appetite and it could make you hangry. And don't do it if you recently had alcohol or you're otherwise intoxicated. You shouldn't do Nasya when your body is run down. Nasya is stimulating. So if you're run down and exhausted, then you need to relax, not stimulate. If you have diarrhea, don't use Nasya, because if it drips down the back of the throat and into the stomach, it will irritate the stomach and stimulate a bowel movement, which makes diarrhea worse. Again, don't do Nasya when you're too tired, because it's stimulating, and you're not supposed to do it when you're while you're nursing, or after exercise, or even right after sex. If you have a runny nose, don't do Nasya, because with Nasya you're trying to get the oil in, but the runny nose is the mucus trying to get out. I also want to note that some clients report that Nasya stimulates more mucus production. And that can be true, because it's part of its cleansing action. Stimulate the mucus, blow your nose, and get it out. If you're pregnant, don't do Nasya. You're trying to, you don't want to do stimulating things while you're pregnant. You want the energy to be down in the womb. And you don't do Nasya right before or after a bath or shower, because you don't want it to mix with the water, which could cause an infection. Generally, you don't do Nasya to children either. Well, they probably won't let you do it anyway. Try to hold one of them down and get the oil up their nose. They're probably not going to let you do that. At least if they're anything like my kids. So, if you're angry or you're very emotional, don't do Nasya either, because it's too stimulating. If you have bleeding in the nose, don't do Nasya. And if you have a fever, don't do Nasya. You rarely use oil when there's an infection in general. If you're unconscious, don't administer Nasya to an unconscious person. All right. Well, Nasya is fascinating. It's a great treatment, stimulating for the mind, very refreshing, lots of great benefits. But in general, you're not going to do it when you're run down or otherwise need to relax, when you have an infection or mucus congestion, or when you have having digestive issues.